Hey guys, welcome back to another impressions video, this time around for Ratchet & Clank on the PlayStation 4, a game that I was very close on finishing during the year of 2016, which is the year that the game came out, but I wasn't able to finish the game, and in fact this was the first game I finished in 2017, so very pleased with my experience on this game. It was a very enjoyable game, on the short side, but that's perfectly fine because Sony, they've been doing a fantastic job of giving the proper prices to their games, and in this case, when this game launched, it was quote-unquote budget release for $40, and you can get the game for cheaper than that nowadays. So highly recommend it if you guys own a PlayStation 4 to get this game, especially if you guys are fans of the series. Ratchet & Clank, they date all the way back to the PlayStation 2 era, and if you guys are familiar with the first game, this is basically a reimagining of the first game. There are certain things that are similar, or planets that are similar, missions that are similar to the original Ratchet & Clank game, and there are some newer things. Now myself, I did play the original one, but I don't remember much from it, so for me everything was almost basically brand new, a brand new experience, if you will. And I think this game also ties a little bit into the Ratchet & Clank movie, which was released last year, which I haven't watched, but I'm kind of curious to watch that movie and see how this game relates to that, if at all. So yeah, the game basically takes place, again, it's a reimagining of the Ratchet & Clank characters and series. So if you're not familiar with them, it's perfectly fine to start here. And the game does a very good job of, the story is basically simple. You have to stop the evil villain Drek, basically, and find out the the ins and outs of the personality of the galactic hero, Captain Quark. And there are funny developments throughout the story that keep you interested, and you just want to keep playing to watch those small cinematic sequences that are very funny and just charming, and they do a good job of keeping you interested in this game, because these types of games are not always, they don't have story as a priority to keep you engaged. It's usually the gameplay, the graphics, and other things, but this game does a pretty good job of having a lighthearted, just enjoyable story, and that's portrayed throughout the game through cinematic sequences that are just pretty fun to watch overall. So a very lighthearted story, and as far as the gameplay, you're gonna have to expect the same old typical Ratchet & Clank gameplay, which is tons of crazy weapons that do different power-ups, different types of weapons that shotguns or laser beams and things like that. So this game has a very heavy focus, obviously, on that crazy gunplay. It's a characteristic of the series, and it's so much fun to just buy the new weapon and just to try out what the new weapon does and things like that. Some of them are funny, like the Sheepinator, where you shoot and you transform enemies into sheeps basically. So it's just very funny, doesn't take anything seriously, obviously. And the cool thing is the upgrading the weapons as well. The more bolts you collect throughout the levels, the more upgrades you can do with your weapon, or the more rocks, crystal rocks you collect, the more upgrades you can do, and the more bolts you collect, the more weapons you can buy in the game. So the game also has a pretty nice open path nature, if you will. There are certain objectives that you can complete at your own leisure, at your own will, and it's not necessarily scripted. It is not necessarily going from one level to the other. You have some certain degree of freedom to go back to older planets and complete other side missions or objectives, if you will. So in that regard, the game it's pretty cool. It gives you that option of going back to other planets and just focusing on other earlier objectives. The gameplay is very solid. It's harder to find the Ratchet & Clank game. They're basically 3D platformers, but they have a very or a heavier focus on shooting enemies. So almost like a third-person shooter slash light 3D platformer. So for me, that combination is fantastic, and something that I really enjoy. And the gameplay in this game is just fantastic. The portions of the game where you have to swing from one from one thing to the other. The controls are very fluid, very precise. If you make a mistake, jumping or swinging from one place to another, it's basically your fault, because the controls are very tight, very well done. It's very fun using the jetpack in the game. Once you unlock it, there are some pretty fun boss battles that you fly with the jetpack. I really enjoyed the final boss battle in this game as well. I thought it was pretty epic, if you will, and I had a lot of fun doing that. And then the graphics, which is one of the highest points in the game. This game looks basically like the movie that came out. It looks, I'm not gonna say it looks like a Pixar movie, but it does have a very amazing graphics. The 3D characters and the models are just very detailed, and the textures and the environments and the different parts of the planets that you visit have a lot of attention to detail. And it's remarkable that Sony released this as a budget title for $40. In my opinion, if they released this game at at full price of $59.99, I would have not complained at all. And in fact, I think it's probably deserves to be priced at that point, because there are so many other games out there that are much inferior in terms of quality, in terms of level design, in terms of characters, that are full priced, and yet Sony was I guess kind enough to release this game at a budget price point of $40. So if you guys own a PlayStation 4, make sure you try this game out. Very enjoyable, lighthearted, action shooter platforming game. And don't be overwhelmed if you haven't really played any of the Ratchet and Clank games in the past. I think this is a pretty good game to just jump straight into it. And for me personally, it's a motivation to go back and play the original first game on the PS2, which I have the HD collection on the PlayStation 3, because I just want to have that or compare that comparison to see what exactly got remade, or how much the first game is similar to this reimagination. So I'm tempted to just go back. Now that I have this game fresh in my memory, I'm tempted to go back to the PS3, or PS2 version of the game, updated on the PS3, and just to play and compare, just to see how the two are similar in different things. So and then overall, obviously you have the voice acting in this game is always funny. The voice. The scripts are very funny. The communication between Ratchet and Clank are always comical, and all the other characters are as well. Captain Quark had a very funny, I guess, role and voice acting as well. So props to Sony for for publishing this game again, and for bringing another quality exclusive to the PlayStation 4. This is, in my opinion, a must-have in the system. The graphics are great, the voice acting is great, the game is not very long, but it's very enjoyable, and it's just fun overall using all the crazy weapons in this game. And the story, to top everything, is enjoyable, and the cinematic sequences do a very good job of just making the game flow and connect together in a very nice way. So that's it for now, guys. Ratchet and Clank for the PS4, highly recommended. So thank you for watching this video, and I will see you all later.